Meanwhile, back in Colorado, one day someone in Winter Park had a great idea. Let's have a kids' race day. I often wondered why it wasn't repeated. The next Saturday, I got a phone call from Winter Park saying, "Bring all the kids over tomorrow. We're going to have a kids' race day." There were only four from our area whose parents thought it'd be okay. One was our son Rolf, age 5. Adina and Earl thought Eleanor, their 6-year-old, might enjoy it. Earl and Max were both working at Arapahoe, and Adina couldn't go, so I'd be the only driver. The other two racers were Jody Manley and my nephew Peter, both high school students. Neither had ever raced before. Going to Winter Park meant driving over 12,000-foot Loveland Pass, which was still a dirt road, down to Georgetown, then up over 11,500-foot Berthoud Pass, and 12 miles down the other side to Winter Park. Snow tires were still not available so soon after the war, but we made it over Loveland Pass. However, there had been an avalanche on the east side of Berthoud. All traffic was stopped. Finally, the plows cleared an opening and traffic started moving. We started to skid and spin. Out of the car jumped the two boys and pushed our little Ford until I got it moving. I didn't dare stop for them. How they ever were able to run, catch up, and jump in, I don't know, but they did. With a big sigh of relief, we got to the top of the pass and headed down the other side to Winter Park. We could see the gates all set up on the lower Hughes Trail. "You boys will have to find your own starting gate," I told them. "I'll have to stay with Eleanor and Rolf. This is their first race, and they'll have to start lower down." "This is our first race, too," Jody yelled at me, but I was hard of hearing at that point. Little did we think we would make the front page of the Denver Post on Monday with the caption, "Pass the liniment, Pappy," which I thought should have read "Mommy" instead. "If Mom didn't feel in the mood to cook breakfast," the news item read, "and Junior had a tough time getting out of the sack in time to make it to school, all hands are pardoned this Monday. Mom, Pop, and Junior had a big time at the Winter Park Ski Carnival on Sunday." Under the heading, "Slat Jockeys Strut Stuff," was the following. 12-year-old Buddy Werner of Steamboat Springs wowed the enthusiastic spectators with his daring slat riding. "Pug-nosed Werner," the article continued, "who stands about binding high to a ski with his boots on, topped the Class C juniors." Then further down the page it read, "Rolf Dercum, all of 5 years old, competed in this event with the aid of his mother. Master Rolf also ran despite coaching from his mom." I was pretty unhappy with this comment. The moguls were so big that both Eleanor and Rolf could not see over them to the next gate. Somebody had to point out the next gate, or the two of them would have been lost in the Valley of the Moguls. Farther down in the same news column, it read, "John Bailey, chief of Winter Park Ski Patrol, took part in the toboggan rescue demonstration." Sorry, John, we didn't stay for that. Anyway, we hadn't met you yet and didn't know that the following year you would become Dillon's new school teacher and principal and the future mayor of Dillon. We made a hurried departure because we had to get over the two biggest moguls before reaching home, Berthoud and Loveland Passes. The end of the season approached. Happily, someone decided that the annual May Day races would be at Arapahoe instead of Berthoud Pass ski area. The first Sunday in May was a warm, sunny day. After working with the kids on the Dillon Hill, I thought I might be ready for this race. It was to be held on the Pallavicini, or Polly as we called this ski slope. It was not in the Arapahoe Basin proper, but down the road, a bit west of the main ski area. Everyone had parked on the highway at the bottom and climbed up to the start, which was about halfway up the slope. The sun burned down on all 30 of us. Looking up to the large cornice overhanging the slope, I was glad we only had to climb halfway. Since the lifts weren't built yet at Arapahoe, no one had been able to get over to the slope all year. Whoever put on the race later, I found out, was always the previous year's winners who placed first, second, and third that chosen the slope. They chose it so we could all park our cars at the finish. I was a bit awed by the entrance. There were famous skiers, including Dick Durance, Gordy Wren, Bob Kidder, Rudy Schnackenberg, George Engel, Florian Hammerly, and a host of others. At the finish, we all sat in the warm sun, drinking snow-chilled beer and looking back up at the white ribbons our ski tracks had made in the not-so-white spring snow. It was only 2 days after the May Day race that Sandy Schaffler phoned from Denver. He sounded excited. We've got someone who's really interested in investing in Arapahoe Basin. A couple from St. Louis. They'd never seen any skiing and don't know a thing about it. But they've got $50,000 they could put in our ski area. Of course, uppermost on everyone's mind was the question, can we raise enough money this summer to build the 2 lifts and the shelter at the bottom? Edna, continued Sandy, we've got this idea, or call it an inspiration. Max could drive you to Midway today in the old Jeep. I know the road up there is a bit muddy as all heck, now with the melting snow, but that Jeep will go anywhere. You could ski across from Midway to the North Glade and then cut across that over to the Poly. This way you'll be just about at the start of last Sunday's May Day slalom. There are no flags left on the course, but the grooves left from the race should be pretty firm. We'll be at the bottom and watch you ski down. Sounds easy enough. I'll be glad to do it. Anything to sell stock. Also, a friend of ours, Jean Valens, is visiting us, and I know she'll enjoy coming along. She's a good skier. So it was all arranged for us to get up to Midway about noon that very day. After we strapped on our skis, Max showed us the trail over to the North Glade. We set off, while Max drove the Jeep back down to the highway at the foot of the Poly. There he would meet Sandy and the St. Louis couple and await our beautiful ski exhibition of a fearless, speedy descent down the Poly. It was starting to cloud up, and we could hear thunder in the distance. I believe, I told Jean, we're going to have the first thunder and lightning storm of the season. We'd better get down to the highway before the lightning decides to strike all around us. I led the way on sticky snow, with Jean following about 30 feet behind. I noticed that the snow had pulled away from the rocks on the uphill side of the trail, leaving an airspace between them. All of a sudden, with no warning or sound, the trail under my skis dropped, and snow and rocks slid away out of sight. The snow had given way so quietly that I didn't realize it until I was flat on my stomach and sliding. Fortunately, I felt a rock scrape my arm. I grabbed it with my right hand. Holding on hard, I pressed my body to the slope. I yelled to Jean, who found me spread eagle in this oh so steep gully. The rock to which I was clinging was below where my feet had been a few seconds before. I turned my head just enough to look down below me and down the sickeningly steep corridor. I couldn't even see where the snow had gone, only the tops of the trees way below. Jean took off her skis, crawled over the rocks above, and then down by my right side to a small spruce. She secured herself by winding her legs in a scissors grip around the tree. Then she reached down and grabbed my arm with a solid grip. Her right arm was useless because of a recently dislocated shoulder, so she had to pull me up with her left one. While I hang onto your arm, she quietly instructed me. You try to wedge your lower ski onto that small projecting rock below you. I couldn't see the rock she referred to, but followed her specific directions. By doing this, and then pushing against the rock with my ski, while she pulled my arm, I was finally able to leverage myself to a safe position. At last I found myself standing next to Jean, but I began trembling like a quaking aspen leaf, so much so that I couldn't even talk. We just stood there for several minutes, breathing deeply to steady ourselves. Then Jean put her skis on again. Come on, where are you going? Get moving. We could hear Sandy and Max yelling from the highway below. Also, the thunder kept getting louder. We realized they couldn't see us because we were hidden by a few trees below. We were very grateful because we didn't want Mr. Rich to be alarmed. I guess we'd better push on over to the Polly, Jean said. We certainly can't go back where the trail used to be. We reached the open slope of the North Glade and looked down to the highway where we were now visible to those waiting. Come on, it's going to storm, they yelled at us. Hurry up. But there in front of us on the open snow of the glade was a 6-inch wide, long, deep crack arching across the snowfield. Oh, Jean, I cried, I'm afraid to cut across that. We'll try going above it, Jean decided. Most gingerly, we traversed uphill and then quickly shot across and into the woods. Here the snow was wet and heavy, but it wasn't as steep nor so likely to slide. Clouds moved in front of the sun. Several flashes of lightning were followed by terrific echoing crashes of thunder. We reached the Polly at the point where the slalom start had been 2 days before. I had had fun racing down this course during the race. Now I was trembling so much, my legs feeling like wet noodles, that I could hardly ski. At last we were at the bottom, and there was Max in the Jeep, but no one else. Where are the others, we both asked. Well, the man's wife was frightened by the thunder, and they left. Max explained, but what on earth kept you two so long? Oh, just wait till we tell you, I was crying as I crept into the Jeep and collapsed. It was just as well that the St. Louis couple and Sandy had gone.